It's 7:04, we'll call the meeting to order. First point on the agenda is questions or comments from the floor. Are there any?
There are
None?
none. No, we got, for the presentation.
Okay. Okay, so we have a middle school presentation. This is the next point on the agenda.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Bauer, Miss Vanderwerker, as well as our student guests tonight, Morgan Fort, Gary Vertucci, and Brady.
Okay.
Come on.
We have a PowerPoint of pictures. So we're here today to share with us, look at the board, to share with you our field trip last Friday. We went to the Black River Educational Center and we did mountain biking. And Brady,
Is that the
you
one
wanna
up in
start us off?
Boonville?
Yes.
Okay.
When we went to the mountain bike preserve, we initially got our safety equipment for our mountain bikes. We got help to put it on. We made sure everything was tight and safe. We made sure we had the right size bikes. And we learned how to change the gears and comments to tell the other passengers.
Can I just ask a quick question? Where did you get the bikes and the equipment? Is it hiding in the woods or?
No, they had different lodges on the
In the educational center.
on the educational center, and there was a bunch of lodges that had like at least 70 bikes in them.
Oh, wow.
Like, and I think there was 8
And they're all fitted different sizes for different size kids.
from 20 to down to 10.
And all that equipment, the helmets and elbow pads, knee pads, gloves, that was all provided as well.
Oh, wow, cool. Thank you.
And then the trails were according to our ability, and then we got those fast downhills and slower uphills and around turns a little bit. Then we had a lunch break at a beautiful cabin, and then we got more riding, and then we took off our safety equipment and put up all of our bikes.
So some of their favorite things, Morgan?
My favorite parts were biking the hills and that it was free for everyone, using the bike commands like leader and cruise, and going in the cabin and going fast.
You're going
What?
fast? All right.
My favorite part was going down the hills, going down hills and talking to all the people. Then we got to see the falls. Then we were getting to be the leader in the caboose, so we tell the people that were stopping or riding in the caboose had an important job that nobody's behind them or they all have to be in front of them. And then we got to see new animals like baby deer and woodpeckers and all that stuff. And then we got to learn new things about the wilderness.
One of my favorite things was getting to see the beautiful falls, and another one of my favorite things was going down the very steep hills. And we're hoping for the future that Mr. Stuttle can get a grant so we can all get our own mountain bikes and go back to Black River Educational Center so to go kayaking in the summertime.
We have an article that we wrote about our trip. Yep. And just from a teacher's perspective, we just wanted to point out that this field trip covered standards in both health, phys ed, and life science in 7th grade. So for phys ed and health, it was an outdoor pursuit of something that they can, a skill that they can use for their lifetime. It's covered physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development, and encouraged students to do activities in a safe and responsible manner, and motivated them to participate in this activity in the future. In life science, we were totally immersed in the forest ecosystem. So they are observing patterns of interactions among organisms with ecosystems and saw quite a biodiversity of life, and really appreciated it. So if there's any questions, they'd be happy to answer them.
I have a couple of questions.
One more connection area, sorry to jump in. Miss Eggleston actually also incorporates it into her 7th grade art. Coincidentally, time-wise, they start getting into Paul Cézanne and drawing from observation. So it was actually tied into another content area as well.
I have a question. Did any of you ever do mountain biking before this trip?
Yes,
You did.
we go there down.
And what, did the teachers also mountain bike along with
Some
you?
of the teachers do, some of
Some of
Did
the
they-
teachers, well, one of the teachers stayed back with the lunches and all that, and
I was not able to bike ride this year. I was disappointed.
and then all the other teachers went with us with our people and all that stuff.
Each group had a guide and a teacher.
Yup.
And we had 2 parents that came along with us.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna miss your story. And no parent with me.
And another question, did you know that they, on those same trails that you were biking on, in the wintertime, they have cross-country skiing on those same trails? Did they tell you that?
They mentioned that.
Yeah, they mentioned that, but we don't have cross country skiing this year, sadly. Yeah, I know. I was gonna do it, and then I went to go find out, and no there.
And I have one more question. Did this make you any more interested in finding out more about nature? And
Yes.
Yes, a lot more.
so it was fun what you were learning and interesting?
Yeah, it was quite an experience. As Gary said, we saw a lot of deer. Our group,
What did he bear? No,
Chicken
but the
yellow.
other group saw a bear, a black bear, he said.
anyways, we saw a bunch of chipmunks, squirrels, and we even saw one black squirrel. But it was really beautiful when all the leaves were changing and the river was running nice and fast. So that was really fun.
Another fun part was when you're going down a hill real fast and you're not looking, and there's a big log in front of you, and you go right flying over your handlebars, not knowing it's gonna be there.
Oh, Gary.
It was fun when landing on my face.
One thing I wanted to point out, Brady was one of the ones when we first gave out the permission slips, wasn't sure he really wanted to go, right? And at the last minute, he's like, yeah, I think I want to go. And then when I asked who volunteered to come to speak to the board, his hand went up first, and he's all about getting the school to get bikes and
Oh,
to go
yeah.
back again. So I think it really made a.
I want to go back for skiing because
How
I
many
saw this.
students went?
We have 70 students. We have 60 students in 7th grade, and we took 50 with us.
Nice.
Last year, it was similar numbers last year. I think we had 9 or 10 stay behind. Both years, some of the ones who stayed behind, I think there was a little regret afterwards because the feedback from the students 2 years in a row has been overwhelmingly positive. Last year especially, they brought a handful of students who had no bicycle riding experience, so they literally went from learning how to ride a bike to mountain biking that day, which was really, really cool. And Black River does all this through private donation. It's all essentially free of cost. You get there and your kits are ready for you, whether you're kayaking or mountain biking or snowshoeing or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of options, and aside from the the aidable transportation cost, it's all free to us.
And as for cross-country skiing, they have closets, like in the cabin, of just boots. Any size you can imagine, skis, everything is completely provided. And the theory behind it is the private donor, he wanted students to be able, young kids, to go out into the wilderness, enjoy the wilderness, learn to take care of it, and to have fun. And so in order to do that, he wanted to be able to provide everything, the top of the line equipment.
Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate it.
Okay, the next point on the agenda is a report by Chris on middle school.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's a tough act to
Thank you.
follow.
Sissy.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, thank you.
You are welcome. So I apologize in advance for the, just kind of the color coding. I went back and forth with it, but I thought it was just the easiest way to kind of make the numbers jump out. So this is a summary of last year's 6 through 8 ELA math and science testing, as well as the Regents examinations that we give in the middle school. So the greens essentially are highlighting our positives, our increases. The reds are highlighting areas we took a step back, and the yellows are areas where we remain flat or neutral. Excuse me. Please feel free to stop me at any time.
So don't use red, green colorblind, that's all.
I'm sorry. I apologize. So starting at the top, at the top of each table is the overall 6 through 8. What you'll know, so ELA, starting with the number of tested, then the second table is the proficiency, then going to math tested, math proficiency. What we'll see is we had huge increases in the number of test takers last year. For up 55% overall in grades 6 through 8, and then broken down by each individual grade level. In that second table, we'll see that we had more students take the test, more students proficient. In 6th grade, we also saw an increase in the percent of student population proficient in 6th grade, where in 7th and 8th grade, we saw small reductions. So we have positives, we have more students taking the test, we have more students proficient, but as a percentage of the overall student population in those classes, we did see not as many in terms of a percent proficient. And I'll get into some of the things that we're implementing to try to curb that.
Chris, can I just,
Absolutely.
what is the total population of the middle school at this point?
The total population of the middle school right now, we're looking at about right around 200 students, give or take 2 students. We had 2 move in the last week. Going off last year's numbers, you're going to be right around 203, I think, was the total population. Going down to math, we saw very similar trends in math, where the total number of test takers increased dramatically, 65%, 58%. Math 7, we saw 110% increase, going from 19 students to 40 students testing. The overall number in math, if you see that 204, that's always going to be lower than the overall ELA number, even if all students test, because a portion of our 8th graders take the algebra exam. So they're excused from the Math 8 exam. So even if all students eligible took the test, you'd always see a lower number in Math 8. So there's always going to be a lower overall number as well. Excuse me. And then same thing with the proficiency. We saw increases in the number proficient. We saw a decrease or a flat in the percent proficient. The Math 8 exam is the tough one. We have a very small cohort of students who take it. This year I think it was 15 students, the previous year it was 13 students. And generally they're struggling with that exam. It's one of our high priority areas. But I also want to flip that into something positive. If you look at our Math 8 score, we're lacking. But if you look at what's called our combined 8, roughly 50% of our 8th graders take algebra. And our algebra numbers are fantastic. So while our Math 8 scores don't look great, when you look at what's called our combined 8 scores, which are 8th grade, mainstream 8th grade algebra students, we're actually ahead of the county average. So we do a nice job there. Excuse me. Science, a very similar trend. We see a couple more test takers, an actual increase in the number of testers. However, the number proficient stayed flat. So because more people took it and the same number were proficient, we saw a negative percent proficient. Same thing with science exam. The students who take earth science are exempt from that exam. So again, we see a much smaller cohort, 11 and 15 students respectively over the last 2 years. The other thing I wanted to include at the bottom is just kind of a snapshot of what our algebra and our earth science scores look like. So you'll see in 2018 and 19, roughly half of our student body is taking an advanced course in 8th grade. So they're taking a Regents level course. Looking at the first table, so 32 students last year took the 2019 earth science exam. That was 50% of our student population. We had 64 8th graders, 32 of them were accelerated in earth science. 100% of them passed. 63%, so 20 of the 32, earned mastery, and 75% earned over an 80. And why I included that is generally when you're above 80 on that scoring rubric, you're 2 to 3 questions away from mastery. So those students who were above 80, so 80 to 84, they were a 2-question to maybe a 3-question swing to being at that mastery level. The Algebra 1 Regents exam at the bottom, again, we saw 32, so half of our student population took it. Number of students passing, 94%, so we had 2 students who didn't pass on the first try. One of them was by 1 point. The number of students at mastery at 44%. The Algebra 1 exam is curved, or the sliding scale is very interesting. The sliding scale is built so a lot of students are able to pass the exam, but it's very, very hard to earn mastery on the Algebra 1 exam. So the fact that 14 of our 32 earned mastery speaks volumes, and the fact that we had another 12 above 80 at that, right at that cusp of mastery really speaks volumes, because it is very, very, very hard to get mastery on the Algebra 1 test because of the way they do those cut scores and they do the sliding scale. And I kind of rolled through it, but I wanted to give an opportunity for any questions if they should pop up.
94% pass rate on that is amazing.
And it should, in all fairness, it should be. These are the 8th graders who, through 6th and 7th grade, demonstrated that they should have a concrete knowledge of the curriculum and the standards. That's why they're being accelerated there. We always would love to see 100. Same story with that, though. We had 1 student with a 64, and then 1 student who was about 10 points behind on the first try. But a couple questions here or there, and we're at that 100. The earth science one especially, Miss Coretta in her first year had 100% pass rate, which was pretty awesome.
Can't get too much better than that.
No.
Any questions, comments?
And it's a shame what algebra does, the state does the algebra test, and the mastery is so tough to get. It's so easy to, not easy, but it's easy to pass algebra.
It's curved.
That mastery is.
The slide and the curve, the scale and the curve is built to bring people up, because it's one of the exams, that Regents exams, that students struggle with, period. But in that curve formula, getting above 85 is really hard. So you see that bell where there's a lot of students between 65 and 78, 79, and it dwindles quickly above 80, and we had a really nice showing last year in that mastery level.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
First of all, I think the results are very encouraging, both in terms of participation and in terms of the results on the test. The 2 questions I have is, one is, why do you think there are still people who are opting out of the test? And do you have any ideas or plans for what might be done to continue to increase the number of participants?
Dr. Fitzgerald and I actually had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago, and one of the ways we think we're going to tackle it, we've traditionally done an 8th grade transition night, where 8th graders come up to the high school and learn about what's going to happen in 9th grade, talk about course selection, things like that. Instead of just doing an 8th grade transition night, usually that was sometime in April, we want to move that up and kind of do a middle school transition and acceleration night. So bring in the 6th grade, bring in the 7th grade, bring in the 8th grade, talk to those 7th graders that might be considering accelerating about, next year you're going to be taking an algebra exam, an earth science exam, what these high stakes tests look like. And try to use that as a motivating factor to maybe start jumping into those exams. In terms of why students are still refusing, I think you have people that are in that mind frame of, it's what we've always done, so we're going to continue to do it. My kids have never taken a standardized test. They've never opted in, so to speak. And it hurts, even though it's disconnected to APPR and it's not tied to teacher scores, I was a teacher, not to badmouth NYSET or anything like that, but when NYSET puts it on the cover page of their website of this is how you refuse a test, I think that things like that hurt us too, because I just think it's the negative connotation of when Common Core got rolled out and everything changed. It's hard kind of, I guess, rebounding from that. So we hope the next gen implementation and the changes that are coming with the test are things that help us out on that end. But I do think that cutting it from 3 days to 2 days, actually eliminating a third of the test as opposed to consolidating all of that into 2 days, I think those are steps in the right direction. And it's, part of it is dispelling the myths of, if you do poorly on a snapshot in one test, that it's going to be a sentence in remediation or AIS for the rest of your life. Just trying to explain to people it's one thing that we look at. But experience with those higher stake tests are valuable, especially as you're transitioning into high school, and you can't refuse a Regents. You can't opt out of a Regents exam unless you're choosing to opt out of graduating.
So if we do the transition night and the accelerated night, we're trying to explain to the 6th and 7th graders, you're gonna need these test scores to be considered for the acceleration program. So indirectly, we're trying to tell people, make sure you take the test when it's one of these. But also, like you said, the 8th grade group saying, you're not gonna be locked out when you get up to the next level. So you know, you get used to taking the test now to make sure that you can qualify. So I think it's a different way of attacking it as opposed to having a opt-in night, where you probably only get 12 or 15 parents. And those are the ones, who have taken the test or will take the test. So.
And just to jump back to the Regents exams, what's really, truly surprising about these, and quite honestly, is a lot of these kids who are in our accelerated group taking Regents in 8th grade, they traditionally have not been taking state exams all the way through. So they're at their first high stakes tests, and we're still seeing success. So I think that only, as more and more students take those tests and just kind of get used to the format of taking a test that spans a length of time like that, I think that's only going to benefit us when they actually sit for longer tests that count, so to speak, in the transcripts.
One thing I would like to just suggest, if you go ahead with those meetings that you're talking about, is that you have them filmed and posted online. Because last year we had that next generation meeting, I thought the presentations were wonderful, the next generation standards. Presentations were wonderful, it was great, and it was very instructive and informative and really uplifting in terms of the way teachers felt about it. And there were only a handful of parents there, and we didn't tape it. And I think that was a big, it was sad, because it could have, I think, been, for whoever might have watched it, it would have been very, uplifting.
It was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, so I would recommend that we don't miss the opportunity with those meetings.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Okay, anyone else?
5 more parents, right?
Okey doke, so we'll move on to goals. Thank you.
You have them there anyway. Oh, good. So just in case. Thanks. Here you go. We got it too. So this is taking me about 3 hours, so we'll try to get it down in 2.5 hours. Make sure good. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at last year's goals and see where we are, where we're at, and also tying in some new goals. And you're going to notice that a lot of them are kind of piggyback because we just haven't finished what we've currently started. And then there's some new things or some new visions that I'm looking at too. So I always want to start a meeting or a presentation, obviously, with our vision, mission, and values. Extremely important. Like we've talked about before, we've upgraded our letterhead. We've put the icons on the website that we talked about before. So I think we're trying to get this out more and more, without a doubt. So if more people come to the board meeting eventually, we'll have the mission, vision, and values in all of our meetings to let people know, because again, it's very important. Goals for 1920. What I want to do tonight is review the 18-19 goals, what was accomplished and what still needs to be worked on, propose 1920 goals, work with everyone in the district to accomplish the goals. I mean, obviously faculty, staff, administration, Board of Education, and community. And then also evaluate the goals in February and July. I think it's very important that we look at them at least 2 times in the year in terms of evaluating where we are. And obviously it's already November, so I think it would be smart around in February and then in July and see where we're heading and see where we might have to adjust. Because we all know a great laid plan is perfect sometimes, but not so perfect, and sometimes you have to adjust some things. And we can look at that as we go. So our district curriculum and instruction, here's our focus. In 1819, we established a curriculum development and implementation process for new programs and courses. That was the goal. It was to develop a new course. So we wanted to develop a new course proposal form, and that didn't get accomplished last year, but this year it will. So what we're going to do is put together a proposal form that will be sent out to everybody, and any new courses that they would want, they would have to submit by January 6th, excuse me. And that would be just a detailed report on what the course is, how it ties into our district goals, any costs or resources that we might need. And then that will be sent to the principals. They'll take a look at that with guidance and the resources that we have as an administration, and see if we can have the opportunity to make sure we can offer that class. Obviously, students can petition for courses and talk to your teachers and talk to guidance about any courses that you might, that might be lacking or something you'd like to see. And that would help hopefully facilitate some teachers to put some new course requests into as well, okay? And we can look at everything. And then obviously we have the scheduling committee, sorry?
But shouldn't that be under 1920 goals, since that's not yet implemented?
Right, but I was just trying to say that this wasn't done last year, so we will, yeah. That was what was proposed last year.
Yeah.
So when I say put 1920, it will be included in 1920s. Yeah, so what I try to do is piggyback with what was asked to do last year
Okay.
and what we're currently still lacking, and then add my new goals as well. So, scheduling committee, which you had, so that was, that was completed. Obviously ongoing. Conduct a secondary scheduling evaluation and make revisions as needed for maximizing course opportunities for students. Again, all I did was take the bullets that you had last year and kept them pretty much, and added a few words on the bottom or next to them. So, for example, our scheduling committee, we're meeting November 19th. That'll be the first round of evaluating what our schedule looks like after the first 10 weeks of the year, and see if we have to make any adjustments and things going forward. As we know, there was a new secondary schedule, so we want to evaluate the pros, the cons, and what was missing, I guess is the best way to put it. That was on last year's goals. I'm just put on there that we're going to meet November 19th. Evaluate current program, explore entry points, scheduling committee again, and then administrative meetings. That's obviously ongoing. Incorporate learning strategies, support active student learning. Put last year one-to-one rollout, instructional development plan, and department chair meetings. Obviously, we're in the midst of our one-to-one rollout right now. And we did put together an instructional development plan, but that will be altered a little bit this year to make sure that we're hitting all the points that we need. So 1920 goals with curriculum instruction, along with all the stuff that we haven't finished, is align next-gen standards. So we have a next-gen standards team with Stacy Elementary that they're doing a phenomenal job. If you look at the checklist in New York State compared to where we are, we're in great shape right now. Absolutely great shape. And we had a great collaboration meeting with Johnstown, and opportunity to see where other districts are and share ideas. And I feel really comfortable where we're at moving forward, that we're going to be in place for the start of next year. And I can say that a lot of districts are doing that. And when we had our curriculum meetings with all the superintendents, it was interesting to see where everybody was here, pretty much everywhere. And I'm encouraged where we're at right now. So yes, great job with Stacy and the group. And they've been working with our department chairs as well, as we rolled out our collaboration day with OESJ on the 15th, which was outstanding too. Everybody got a lot out of it. We were able to share ideas and move to the next level in terms of what we have to do for our curriculum. So we have our October 15th and November 5th conference days. We're going to be looking at some 2-hour delays and early dismissals to have some targeted, specific professional development time. So at the end of when we're done November 5th, we'll sit and talk and say, where are we now? What do we still have to finish? And we'll start to do some targeted days. And we'll also put in a summer institute next year. There's some grant money built in from Title I, correct? Title II, I'm sorry. Title II of about $15,000. That'll allow us to develop a summer institute to see where we're still lacking and where we need to kind of catch up. And also look at some areas that we want to expand upon. So we'll put together, starting, probably December through January, start to put together those ideas and concepts and roll out an institute for the summer. And some of that can be included in some online learning as well. So we should have enough to facilitate. We're looking at probably about a week's worth of seminars and opportunities and PD for everybody. So that's how we're going to align the next gen standards, and then create a district instructional technology plan. We're doing things like Tech Thursdays right now, student seminars with the students who have the new computers, and our LMSs are pushing into classes for instructional methods, increased instructional methods. And then we're looking at some IT interns also to help, maybe meeting with Stephanie Palmer, Chris, from NARIC, Stephanie Palmer from NARIC and Chris next week, and we're looking at some possible interns to come in and help us alleviate some of our IT needs some rudimentary things that they wouldn't have to do anymore, so we can concentrate on making sure we have all the little other pieces in place. Because they're getting bogged down with, how many rollout? 500 Chromebooks?
810.
Unbelievable. 500 this
510,
one.
another 100, oh yes,
Yeah.
500 additional, another 120 iPads.
So I think it's gonna be important to help get us some Scott Ferguson had a networking night the other night at his house from students who are graduating from Cobleskill. And I met 3 interns who have to do internships for the spring. And it would be a great opportunity for us to incorporate them here and help us facilitate, again, the rudimentary things that our IT people can concentrate on more things in the classroom and to finish our one-to-one rollout without hiccuping along the way because they have to deal with all these little things on the side. So I think it'll be a good opportunity for us. So that is as far as the curriculum instruction piece.
Just a small
Yes.
question.
Yep.
What does LMS stand for?
Library Media Specialist.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
See, I was thinking learning management. That's why.
Up to high school and the middle school, I'm just doing a really great job of facilitating our technology and helping to push into classrooms. Engagement. Our 18-19 goals was establish student community volunteer program, where the program was put in place within the district, so there are students volunteering, and it's mostly just in the elementary school, so we got to expand that, and development of community service hour requirements for students. Looking to establish that for next year, but we're going to develop it this year with the input from teachers and faculty, but also students as well. And I think it's important to get the student input in terms of the community service aspect. I know my last school and every student in participation in government and economics had to at least do 15 hours. And when you're talking 70 kids at 15 hours, that's quite a bit, given back to the community, without being too intrusive on the students where they have to do too many hours. And we also have our student council, our National Honor Society who does hours as well in the community. What we would like to look at, and I'll show it down a little bit further, we'd like to look at tracking it, and I'll show you how we could do that. More outside speakers. Last year we had Sweethearts and Heroes that come in. Well, Mr. Stuttle is finishing up on his PhD, and he is coupling to do some research on the socio-emotional side, but with students, and he's coupling with Sweethearts and Heroes to do some research work for them, and in return, they'll come in and do some PD for free in our district. So this is a great opportunity for him to get what he needs, and for us in return to get it. Fonda is modeling the entire Sweethearts and Heroes programs, K through 12, and working exclusively with the Sweethearts and Heroes program and people involved. And we want to try to, I wouldn't say extensively that much, but we have an opportunity to get some guest speakers and work some PD with our faculty and also some of our students. The bottom is just a list of all the guest speakers we had last year throughout the district. So just wanted to make sure you knew who came in and what we covered. Complete the planning. Next was complete the planning for an in-house music rental program. I met with Tim today, and I think there was a little confusion there. He said they weren't looking at a full house music rental program. They were looking for opportunities to give kids instruments that they would have available. And he was looking at, he went as far as going to antique shops, asking for community donations, and we'll be doing that throughout the year with all the concerts. And piggyback off, this is a good thing, I guess. My cousin, who used to be a superintendent, owns 3 antique shops, and I never even thought of this. But I'm going to reach out to him too to see if we can possibly get some instruments that way as well. He feels pretty comfortable that if we move in that direction, we'll probably get about 70 to 80% of our kids taken care of in terms of any problems they may have. But it seems like they always find a way, as Tim said, to get the kids the instruments when they need them. But the more we have available, obviously the better to make sure we have an opportunity. Fonda does an in-house program where they give all the kids the opportunity to, for free. It would be a huge expense, something if you want me to look into, we can. But if you're renting for every single student, it's about $35 a month for an instrument every month. So something we'd have to take a look at. Develop a parental community volunteer program with vetting, orientation, and training. Brochure and applications were made last year and now they're complete. And we'd like to roll that out. I sent that out to you over the weekend. Legal looked at it to make sure everything was okay in terms of the application. And what we can do is start to get that out to community members. In terms of Sarah Wheeler, our communication specialist, will do a mass email, also get it up on our website, get it out and possibly even a mailer, and then also have it available in all of our district offices. So I think we're well on our way with helping with the volunteer
Can I just
program.
add to that, I think it'd be great to have that at any school, like concerts and plays and
Oh, good point.
things like that.
Yeah.
Just have a table where that's available with someone to talk to people about it, because we've had some real good responses when we've done stuff.
Mhm. So we'll do a barrage over the December, January, February, where we have the concert series and everything else. So, good. And then explore community service as a graduation requirement. I just put this down as nothing was ever put into action, but again, I'd like to this year develop a program for this, or a procedure or policy. But our Naviance program has a program that they marry with called X2 VOL, which tracks all the community service. So for example, if we have all the community organizations that are participating, we would give them access through via an email, and they would be able to check off the students and how many hours that they would participate in. So that would go back and would go into the Naviance program and would be able to track their community service by hours without having to worry about sheets, sign sheets, the actual, so for example, it was the Little League. The Little League coordinator would actually go on the computer in the Naviance program and just click the student's name and put down 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, and confirm it, and it would dump right back into their personal profiles and it would be complete. So it's a good way of tracking in either way, and it's least intrusive on our community organizations as well. It'd be much easier for them to do that. So I'm going to look into that. It is a small cost. It's not that much. I think it's about $500 or $600, but it's also aidable. So we'll look at, it's an offspring of Naviance, but it gives us an opportunity to do it electronically. If it's something we're going to definitely invest in and we're going to over 1,000 hours, it's probably smart that we track it properly. And it'll be forever in their Naviance program too, so they can show colleges, they can use it and take it with them, and it's all there. So, 1920 goals in terms of engagement, participate in community panel. I'm on a community panel now with business owners, clergy, town, village, county, state, and other organizations like Department of Social Services. And we meet quarterly. And I will be probably the main thrust in that community organization, where I'll talk about the initiatives, things that we have coming up, the help that we need, the partnerships that we want to make together. And also we want to talk about how we can kind of consolidate and use other people, services from the community, into our district as well. So this was the panel I was kind of talking about, but indirectly it was formed by somebody in the community. So, two birds with one stone. It's already kind of formed and we can build from there. Attend local organizational meetings. I'm going to meet with the Senior Center 3 times a year, town village meetings, and obviously go to as many events as I possibly can. And we're looking to increase our social media volume. I'll get the numbers, but Sarah told me today our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter is through the roof, she said, in the last 3 months. So we're getting more and more people on. We're getting more people to latch on to what we're doing, and we're getting the word out there. If you look at our Instagram, if you look at our Facebook, I think you're going to see quite a bit of posts and about activities and events going on. And Sarah's done a great job of highlighting teachers. Go to our Facebook page, and we're highlighting a teacher every week. And we're getting a lot of great responses if you read underneath. And she's doing it in a manner that really showcases all the talent that we do have here. So I think we're doing a lot of great things with the social media. She told me today it's the Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are through the roof. Yes.
Well, that's
Yep.
good. I have a question or a suggestion. I've had a couple parents ask me about the website.
Yep.
And they used to, up until about January of last year, where they would put the daily announcements on there, and there'd be announcements from the, or they were hoping there was going to be announcements from the counseling center or when there's scholarships and stuff like
Okay.
that. So this way, students who miss it in the board here
Uh-huh.
or miss the announcements in the morning for whatever reason, can then have them online.
Okay.
And parents can.
Access them.
Access
Where
them.
were they? Do you remember?
It was on the website.
Just on the front
It was
website,
on
or
the
was it in
website
guidance?
today,
Or?
yeah, it was just on the website. I think they're still there from last year,
Okay.
archived, from like January on.
Okay.
But it's helpful for the parents who are not necessarily on the social media, but are on the internet, and they're looking at the website
Okay.
just to see what's.
So very similar to what was last year, so when I look into it, you just want piggyback off what was there.
Right,
Okay.
just so, for the parents who get on it maybe once a week.
Yep.
And be like, okay, these are the scholarship opportunities, or these are the happenings that are going on
Okay.
in the school, so.
Can you
anyway,
just
it
make a
was-
little side note for me? Yeah, just so I can make sure I look at it. And you said pieces are on there already, so I'll be able to piggyback off.
Should be,
Okay.
I know they were last year.
Good. So again, I think a lot going on with engagement. Next is budget and resources. Last year, the goal was resources aligned with the vision, mission, values, and student needs. Budget plan, hiring of positions and new courses should be designed around the vision, mission, and values, which I think we always do and will continue to do. Grants and other sources of funding accessible through collaborative efforts. I don't know if anything was done grant-wise. I know some people have tried to write some, but I have some ideas down below if we want to look at it. And passable budget that sustains needed programs and services, collaboration from all the stakeholders. My goals is to develop a $500,000 cost reduction revenue increase plan to sustain programs and services. Starting next year, we should start to get a solar project pilot for 15 years. It should cover about $210,000 a year. We should see about $70,000 of that this year. Health insurance, we're right now looking to renegotiate the health insurance, and I think there's a possibility for huge savings there as well. Program enrollment needs, we'll be looking at, where can we make certain cuts? Where do we have to make increases? But where can we make certain reductions as well? And I'd like to look into BOCES grant writer. A great opportunity, they pay for themselves. They know exactly where to go, they know exactly what to look for, and they know how to write grants. So I'm going to look into that, and I'll definitely get back to you in terms of what costs and services are. But 99% of the time, you triple your money in terms of what you're paying out, because they know exactly the little things and how to get the grants and what to look for. So I will talk to them through BOCES and see where our needs fit compared to what grants are available, and see if it's feasible for us to move forward with that. But there's money out there, we should try to go attack it as much as we possibly can. So. And negotiate with new health insurance plan, leaving New York 44 Trust by September 1st. We're rolling over our Medicare eligible retirees to the Hartford plan, and the committee is currently working with a new plan for health insurance. So I think just with the retirees alone, we're probably looking at about $125,000 to $140,000 savings next year. And then we're looking at our regular insurance plan, where we're, again, redeveloping everything from A to Z there. So we'll have some better numbers probably around February. I'm very confident we're going to hit that $500,000 number. That's sustainable. So, and I think that's enough for us to kind of get us out of the worrisome part of the fund balance and the reserves and how we're continuing to decline. We talked about a $500,000 mark that would allow us to do that. And there's some positive things going on down too with the beech nut plant. I'm on that committee. They looked at trying to revitalize the main building, found out it was going to be $12 million to do that, so they're not going to do it. They're going to tear it down, and that'll probably happen next year. And they're talking about getting a $2 million grant to put a road right through the middle. So there's an east and west side of the plant, so they can start to parcel off land, so there's just not one business, there's maybe 4 or 5 businesses. And I think that will help our downtown revitalization, but also give us some much needed tax base too. A little bit helps, as we know. So there's already some businesses interested. I know you've probably read some articles, and there's already some other business interested as well. They're going to start to put up a billboard up top of the main building and start to advertise more for the land and the availability. So I think there's a lot of positive things going on. Right now, it's a perfect time to hit the state, because the state is very much into the revitalization piece, and they're not afraid to spend some money right now to revitalize areas. So technology. Implement a one-to-one technology initiative. We have the first phase is complete. Second phase, we're in the process. Develop a penmanship skills and keyboarding curriculum that will be implemented. We still need to develop that. I have to look into that a little bit more. Explore online language learning programs, but
Whoa.
yep.
Penmanship skills.
I don't know why that's in there, but
This was
Is this a throwback program?
I don't know why that's, that was on the list that was given to me for goals from last year, so I don't know why. I could see the keyboarding curriculum piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all with that.
So we'll look into that. I don't know where we're at with that. It was the least priority, I guess, through everything.
Mario might need some penmanship.
Explore online language learning programs, but also not only explore online learning programs, I'm meeting with the distance learning people next week, and I want to look at some options there. I think now is definitely the time to look at those areas. I think we've got to understand that if we have some upfront costs, the money coming back to us is, I'll give you a quick example. If a teacher is teaching a class, we get 20% of their salary back to the district. It's aidable back to us. If we have somebody who is the aide in the classroom, or we're receiving a class and we need somebody to be in there, we get 20% of their salary back as well. So there's an opportunity for us to gain revenue to build in a new distance learning program. And the good thing about distance learning is you don't need 12 or 15 students in a class. You need 1 or 2 to make it run. And if you're teaching it, you don't even need any. So if you're teaching a class and you have somebody receiving it, you can still teach the course. But it'll give us an opportunity to open up some different lines of courses for our students. There's well over 1,000 courses right now in New York State online. So for us to kind of look at where our needs are and what we're looking for, it's to be a great opportunity for us to do that. So when I get meet with them next week, I'll report out what information I have and where we can move forward with it. We ran 2 rooms in our last district, and it was a great thing. We did meteorology, astronomy, we did vet science, we did agricultural business, we did Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, we did sign language. It was a great opportunity to take courses you could never offer, but do it here. So, and it's not taking positions away, it's adding opportunities for different pathways for our students. So it's not like we come in and say, okay, let's take all 5 business courses and get rid of our business teacher. It's looking at ways to say, okay, now we can offer maybe, again, a different science class like an astronomy and meteorology where nobody would be able to teach here. We can offer that to our kids. So, distance learning options. Our 1920 goals: fully implement a one-to-one technology initiative, completion in all phases this year. Student seminars, develop a help desk, make sure we're inventory everything. In Amsterdam, just about 2 months ago, got word that they're having, that they had an audit, and they came in and did an audit on every single thing in the district: computers, inventory, everything. And we have to make sure that we have everything tagged. And so we're going back, and Chris is doing a good job working with IT to make sure that that's happening. But that's where our interns can come in again to help us tag everything, make sure that we know where everything is, and we know where everything is organized. A quick thing on Amsterdam: they had the audit, and they had to find 900 Chromebooks. It took them 2 days to find them. They were in a warehouse someplace, and they were already tagged. They had no idea where they were. So we've got to make sure that we have complete control of our inventory.
What is the student seminars?
What our library media specialist / technology specialist, Lauren, is coming in and doing student seminars for the kids who have the Chromebooks, and then she's going over Gmail, she's going over how to use Google Calendar, Google Classroom, and now that we have School Tool up for our students. So she's doing about a 40-minute seminar on that. Relationships. 1819, establishing ongoing building level safety committees and threat assessment teams, which we have in place now. We're going to continue those. We have a district level safety committee, and then we branch out into building level, so we have common language. Continue building level teams, as again, as a product of district level meetings, so we're expanding that, but we're meeting our goal from last year. Implementation of a mentor program, see below, which I'll talk to you in a second about. Plan community-wide events to gather input and feedback. I've got that community committee, and I'm looking for feedback to come up with new ideas. Open house is, that's history nowadays. Today is more about welcome back celebrations. You know, open houses used to be, let's go meet the teacher, let's go see some new courses, or let's go see what our kids are doing. Today there's email, there's school tool, there's online, there's social media. Everybody is in the know right now. Now it's more about welcome back celebrations. So this year, I think all of our 3 buildings did an outstanding job of making it more of, hey, let's come out and let's, you know, welcome everybody back and say hello to everybody, as opposed to making it more of a formal open house. And I think you got to move to that model because the model has changed. It's completely changed. When I grew up, we didn't have internet or an email, or we didn't call the school very much, so my parents had to go out and meet the teachers. Now you can do that through a quick email or a phone call. So we'll be looking at our 1920 goals as committee participation. I'll be on the community panel and Exit 29 committee. I'll be on the and a couple reasons why I'm on the Exit 29 committee. I definitely want to be in the know of what's going on down there, but I also want to create partnerships immediately. So when the new companies come in, the new organizations, I want partnerships for our kids. And I want them to be a part of our district as fast as possible so we can get involved and give our kids, again, different pathways for jobs and opportunities when they leave here. Student mentoring program. I sent you the student mentoring piece that the union was okay with moving forward. I'd have to get your blessing on it, obviously. If we started it in the second half of the year, we'd be looking at about 20 to 24 students, about 2 a grade. Start off small. It would be about $200 per mentor. So it would cost the district about $4,800 to $5,000. It's something that was built into their contract last time. It's something that I would wish for you to consider, and I'd probably put it on the next board meeting for something that we could move forward. This will give us a half a year to kind of see how it's working, work out any bugs. I was very fortunate in my last school to start one, so I'm very encouraged by what we can do, and the results were outstanding. And I think this will be a great opportunity to not just look at at-risk students, but any type of student who might need a mentor to get through. So I think this is an extremely important opportunity. So it's a great vetting system where we'll get feedback from our guidance department, our PPS staff, the teachers, and administration, and we'll put together lists. And then from there, we'll ask mentors who want to be a part of it to apply. And then we'll start to have a beginning of the year training. We'll kind of do, I hate to say it, like a draft. We'll look at the students and who would best fit which mentor and put them with that mentor, and then kick it off, and then do a mid-year meeting to assess how things are going, and then the end of the year meeting to see what changes we can make as we go forward. So good opportunity to reach another 20 to 30 students in a very positive way. For probably, the cost is about a coach. So when we look at it. And we're looking at recognition, employee years of service this year. And I think it's important to just send a thank you note out to somebody. I think it goes a long way. And I think we're getting out and we're doing those things because people need to be recognized and understood how important they are, without a doubt. Send a quick thank you note to Coach Miller, winning the league championship, a little something like that. She saw me today. She was kind of like, a little bit of tears because it meant a lot. And I think those things go a long way. So we'll continue to do that because that's important. We do a lot of great stuff here, and we're not in a business where we take a bow every once in a while, and we should. Cultural, social, and emotional, 18-19 goals, implement restorative circles at the secondary level. There wasn't any implementation of circles. There was talk about some restorative practices. Implement conscious discipline concepts at the middle school. I say see below, kind of a little bit of some introduction, right, but not too much. And now we're trying to push into that with the upgrade of the position that I'm recommending tonight. Continue progress with conscious discipline. Continue progress with teachers and students. Move that to the middle school. We've got to push into now the 6th grade. Foster a plan for the future with data from the school year, referral and behavioral data, and then implement restorative circles. I think that this is a way to do it piece by piece. And I think restorative justice is always tough to get teachers sometimes to believe in it because sometimes they think there's no discipline attached to it. And that's not the case. If a kid comes in and tells a teacher some choice words, there has to be some discipline, but there has to be also a way to change the behavior. And we want to have an opportunity to have that mediation, to look at reasons why they're doing what they're doing, and then help alter and change that behavior. There's a ton of research out there that says if you continue to suspend kids and put them in detentions, it doesn't work. So we have to come up with another method. And I think we would like to start talking to our high school principal. I'd like to look at 2 key areas like class cuts and late to school, and start some circles with some guidance, PPS staff, and the principal, and start to look at our 6 or 7 top high flyers, and let's come up with some ideas on why they're doing what they're doing, and let's give them those supports to make sure they don't continue to do it in the future. So if we can show a 30 to 40% reduction in those areas, I think with the mentoring program and that, it gives us an opportunity to expand to the faculty and staff to say how this really works, and how we can see the results, and how we can kind of move it forward in the future. So that's the kind of plan to implement restorative justice. So there's no additional cost to the district at this point. It's an opportunity for us to kind of facilitate what it looks like and to show some real change before we move further. Like everything else that we do, nothing happens overnight. It cannot happen overnight. If we're going to do an initiative, we do it with fidelity, which means it's going to take us some time. You know, especially when you're talking about the social emotional piece and getting everybody on board. You have to show it in pieces, show how it works, how it can be successful, and then move forward from there. I think if we learned anything from the Common Core and the 3 through 8 testing, if you try to shove it down everyone's throat, they'll rebel and they won't like it. So this is an opportunity for us to do it in another manner that helps our students, but at the same token, lets people know how this really works and how it can affect change. So.
Two questions.
Yep.
One is, so you're viewing this as a pilot program,
Yes.
and will we need professional development in order to even implement the pilot program, or do we have that?
No, I think we're in pretty good shape at this point. I think it's something as we expand, we do have professional development money, so I don't think it's anything additional this year that we'll need, but it might be something as we develop a budget for next year that will add that in case, you know, if we do need additional training support. So
But we currently have the knowledge in order to implement the pilot.
I'm comfortable we have the knowledge. Yep. Very comfortable. Especially at the pilot area. So. And then obviously our student mentoring program. Just quickly, our high school goals. I met with each administrator. We talked about like a pre-evaluation. High school goals, restorative practices, mediation with parents, students, faculty, and staff. Mr. Bertino's doing that now. I think he's doing a great job, and that's one of the reasons why we hired him, because he's doing a great job of developing relationships. Teacher conferences, restorative circles, and positive referrals. We're looking to institute what's called a positive referral program, or PR. Instead of just doing discipline referrals, we're doing positive referrals, and we're going to concentrate on the positive things people are doing. And we're looking at different ways to do it at different levels. Elementary school, giving a certificate to go get a free ice cream because you had 4 positive referrals goes a long way. At the middle school, we'll talk about what Chris does, a little extra couple things for the middle school kids, and the high school will come up with a different plan there as well and go out to the community and ask for some support to reward kids for the positive things that they're doing. So we're looking at things like positive referrals in effort, achievement, improvement, and citizenship. And those 4 areas, teachers would write up a positive referral. It would go to the main office like a discipline referral, but would kick out a congratulatory letter. It would go home to the parents, and then instead of the administrator calling down the student for a discipline referral, they're calling down the kid for a positive referral and talking about the great things that they've done in the classroom or in the school. So it's a way to kind of change the culture piece by piece. So now, follow me. Restorative circles, conscious discipline, positive referrals, mentoring program, community involvement. Where is that all going? It's going to look at the whole picture, step by step. And we'll go, we'll be able to make consistent strides year after year to help facilitate the needs for the social emotional piece that we're seeing that are ever growing in every single district. So we're attacking it piece by piece, but it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. High school goals, again, goal number 2, community events, welcome back celebration. He's looking to do movie nights, parent dance, where the students are the chaperones. This will be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to see that. Family bonding and building a cultural team with teachers and faculty and staff to work on how do we change and develop a better culture in the school. Goal 3, instructional enhancements. Improve question and discussion techniques. He's going to focus on that in the instructional piece. I believe in looking at 1 or 2 key areas every year, and again doing that with fidelity and continue to make improvements. as opposed to saying we're gonna look to make 5 adjustments. It's never gonna work that way. So let's focus on how do we do better with question discussion techniques in the classroom. And let's start to share ideas. Let's start to expand our knowledge for each teacher. Let's piggyback off of each other. And let's really work just on that issue, for example. Work on some formative assessments and then pathways to improve graduation rate. Distance learning, different courses, and opportunities. Middle school goals. Increase student proficiency of New York State math and ELA and science exams, which Chris talked about earlier. How he's going to do that. Increase student proficiency by 10%, incorporating Wonders ELA in 6th grade, iReady Math in 6, 7, and 8, and ELA in 7 and 8, and guided study use time. So he's going to use guided study to do the iReady. Okay, for example. Datamate to drill down and start to collaborate with departments and teachers. We have a program called Staff Track that does our evaluations. In that, it's called Datamate. It allows us to take all the 3 through 8 testing and the Regents exams and drill down by standard where we're deficient. And as opposed to trying to pick all those things out one by one, Datamate will drill all that down for us, and we'll be able to look at common strands where students are not being successful, and we'll be able to concentrate just in those areas to make the change in the instructional gaps that we're seeing in lesson plans and things that are going on in the classroom, that we can focus just on those areas, not something at large. And then we'll be looking to continue to provide support to parents and community by spreading the word on how we use the tests, and promotion and acceleration courses, and then the acceleration and transition night in February. Goal 2, decrease total number of course failures. Reduce the total number of students failing by 1 or more classes by 10%. How is he going to do that? Advising time outside of lunch recess time, 22 minutes a day. Study den during lunch recess, if students are missing 2 or more assignments. We have a Wednesday late bus, so we have an opportunity for after-school support, and the mentoring program. And goal 3, decrease the total number of referrals in the middle school, use of conscious discipline and restorative practices, and incentive to organization. Chris does things like agenda raffles, Canjo Cares, and along with his positive referrals that we'll roll out. PPS and special education goals. Finalize the district school counseling plan and post to the website. So she'll be working with the PPS team to create and finalize and do bi-weekly meetings to continue that plan. Second is a co-teaching PLC for academic performance with students with disabilities. So we're looking at training, did a training program in the summer, survey for a baseline, and then PLC meetings with Datamate to develop a plan. 10 to 15 people.
PLC?
Professional learning community. Yeah. All the jargon.
Yeah.
By the time you get all these,
Alphabets.
yeah. Goal 3, work with principals to ensure compliance with SLE standards, culture and emotional, conscious discipline in elementary, restorative practice in the high school, both in the middle school, social emotional learning standards. We have to make sure that, you want to explain that a little bit? Explain a little bit for me.
Yeah, we want to make sure our staff understands what the social and emotional learning standards are so that they can help support those within their regular classrooms.
And where do they come from? I mean,
State, well, actually, the federal government has determined what those standards are. So simple things as, being able to identify your feelings for little people, down to being able to show empathy and understand the concept of empathy as they're getting older. So it's just the progression of how one develops emotionally and which stage students have those capabilities and those understandings.
Which ties into our conscious discipline, which ties into our restorative practices, which ties into our mentoring. You can see the threads. And we're a small enough school where all those things can make such a huge impact. If we affect 3 or 4 kids a class, think about that, the impacts that we can have. And then positive referrals as well. And there's a lot going on, is what I wanted to show. And there's a lot to work on this year, and there's a lot to tackle. Not to mention, definitely have some administrative turnover. We put new people in place. We all know that takes time. And I think we're really pushing forward, and it's like a juggernaut every day. We're pumping through and we're getting through things, and people are working very hard. It's impressive to see. And everybody's kind of working together, and I think everyone's starting to see, I think people are seeing big pictures. So I think that, but it's going to take some time, like anything else. As I interviewed, these things take 4 to 6 years to fully implement and go through, so step by step. So, any questions at all? I know it was a lot, but
It sounds like you're tapping into your resources within the schools, correct?
yes.
Using your teachers who have the knowledge of some of these things to be able to help implement things.
Yes, bingo. And let's empower people to do some great things for us.
Because then they'll buy into it.
100%. Bingo. Yep. Now, again, it'll take some time, but I think we're doing a good job of empowering. So,
I notice we don't have any goals for the elementary school.
no, because we're waiting for the new principal. Yeah. Stacy had some goals. I think they'll probably be similar, but I will piggyback off of those when the new principal comes in. I didn't want to kind of slight that person and put him in a position, or her in a position, when they come in. So I could show you what she had, and I'll send that out to you, but it could alter, and I'd hate to have that happen too. So, any other questions?
I just have one other
Yeah.
comment, which is that, this is kind of an unusual year because, as everyone knows, Nick came on in July. In the past, what we have done in terms of developing goals is to have a collaborative approach in the summertime with, between the superintendent and the board, to talk about what are the directions we want to try and go in this year, and then turf it to the superintendent to kind of get together with the appropriate people to develop a concrete plan. So moving forward, I would look forward to this summer that we rekindle that process.
Makes sense. And again, a lot of it was piggybacking off of last year, really, because we just haven't finished them, type of thing. So, good.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the next point is presentation topics. In the past, we've developed a list of topics that we wanted to have explored during the second meetings of the month. I don't think that we need to necessarily come up with them tonight. I just wanted to throw it out there, because obviously we don't have a second meeting in November or December. So what I'd like to suggest is that people give it some thought, and maybe in the November meeting, let's have a discussion, and try to come up with topics for the rest of the year, so that we can then make adequate plans for those presentations. So that's what I would like to recommend, if that's agreeable. So we'll put it again on the agenda in November, and then have, hopefully, everyone should come in with some ideas for things we'd like to explore and learn about.
We got a great presentation in November from technology, and we're gonna go from student to our specialists, to the teachers, to Chris. And we're gonna talk about how it's all affecting everybody, and what our CSI program's doing, what the one-on-one rollout's doing, what our specialist is doing to push in classrooms, and also student seminars. To our two Phils are going to come in and talk about what they're going to present at the national conference, and how the technology is built into that. And then Chris is going to follow up with the one-to-one initiative, all of our technology initiatives, and also some different things that we're looking at, like esports, things of that nature. So I think it'll be a full plethora of, you can see technology from A to Z, from student to faculty to administration.
Okay, next point on the agenda is the student representative report. Take it away, Tyler.
So the haunted house is going to be taking place tomorrow from 5 to 8 p.m. and it's going to be hosted by the History Club and NADA. Ticket cost is $5, and with the donation of a non-perishable good for the Fill the Bus food drive, the price is reduced to $3. The haunted house starts in the guidance office, in the guidance wing, and then wraps around through the basement. Spirit Week was a good time. There was a lot of student and teacher participation, and Mismatch Day was a favorite. The pep rally took place on the 18th, led by Student Council. It was a very high energy event with a lot of student and teacher participation. And activities included relay races, donut eating, and ultimate frisbee. And all throughout that, the band was playing, which, brought up a lot of energy. It was an enjoyable time. The PSATs took place on the 16th, and the junior class and a few of the sophomores took this. The sophomores who took the PSAT took it in Sharon Springs, I believe. The open house was enjoyable. I didn't get to cover that last time. All that attended were pleased about the food, and it was a great time for parent and teacher interaction.
A lot of students.
Yes.
Yeah, more than we've usually seen, right? Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments? I'd like to know, could you kind of give a description of how the open house was different from previous open houses?
I wasn't able to attend this year, but I heard feedback, and people definitely enjoyed the close sense of community, and the food certainly was something that people were happy about.
I was there, I think.
Could you describe it more?
Well, I was just in that area, but there seemed to be a lot of people there. I heard from a number of parents how the atmosphere was very positive, that people were really, happy to be there and smiling. And there was also, they were selling old T-shirts from previous star years, and they had that on a table, which was fun for people to look at, and I don't know, it was a good, people were positive, so it was nice. I had, what I got out of it.
Yeah, one of the noticeable things were the teachers were in the hallways, mainly outside their classrooms, so it was groups of people talking about what was going on. It wasn't like parents pulling a teacher aside saying, "How's my kid doing?"
Right.
It really had the feel of community at that. It was great.
And that's where that model's changed so much, because you can go in school to check your kid's stuff out, call a
Right.
teacher. Now it's more, hey, how are you doing? And let's develop a relationship, as opposed to, what's wrong with my child and how they doing? So,
And the music was nice,
Yeah.
and the food,
Yeah.
brought people in.
great job.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so next we have destruction of textbooks.
Just sounds bad, just gotta change that.
I'd kind of like to have an extreme review textbook, that sounds good.
Sounds all
Har,
I like the books from 1959.
Bootstraps, come on, how can we destroy that?
Henry and Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, yeah,
Henry.
it's no hard to.
The novels and things that are on there, they're at the point, the bindings are destroyed,
Oh, I know.
they're beyond repair.
I know it, I have those, a lot of them in my classroom.
I still have a World Book Encyclopedia in my barn.
My students are reading books that are falling apart.
Okay, any questions on destruction of textbooks? How are they gonna be destroyed? You gonna burn them?
You should have voted on this right before homecoming.
I tried.
No, because then you'll have a problem with book burning,
Yes.
get into that, and we can just talk about that for hours, so.
Okay, any other things on that? Then, if I could get my thing to go down, I would see
We
what
need a
comes
motion
next.
to approve that.
Motion,
Second. Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we have consent approvals. Can we talk about these?
Yep, we recently, as you know, we lost a food service person, we did replace her, but, and that, we are short on substitutes, so anybody, Lori Brody has gone out and found a couple, Connie Baxter last year, there's a recommendation in there for her just as a sub. She's also subbing at Fort Plains, so it's a nice crossover. You want to talk about Angel Fowler?
Angel for the 2-to-1 aid position that we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago.
In the kindergarten?
Kindergarten, yeah, 2 kindergarten students.
And then Wayne, just the civil service procedure, he had a probationary period that is up, so this is the primary one.
One question that had come up in an email to me was that they weren't aware that aides were a civil service position, but they are. Okay, any questions or comments? Can I have a motion for consent agenda, first of all?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so then all in favor of the consent motion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We have approval of an E&L teacher.
That'd be the approval of the position.
Can you explain that one more time, just so I'm understanding it?
Yes, we do is look to go on a .4 FTE E&L because we're non-compliant in E&L, and we feel we have not saying it too much, I think we have a person in line, but we post first and see if it's taken care of. And that .4, as I wrote in the weekly update, would allow us to piggyback up what we talked about with conscious discipline and allow Mrs. Nair to spend more time with the conscious discipline. But in the meantime, and we talked last time about looking at another teacher in 3rd grade, the administration and the teachers feel that this is a good fit what they're currently doing now with the push in with math and ELA. And with ELA, Mrs. Nair is indirectly doing some conscious discipline as well. So it's kind of a win-win for us. And we feel that that's fitting the needs. And correct me, Stacy, and Jen, if I'm incorrect on that, that we feel that that's the recommendation that we need to move forward to get both in compliance and also get Mrs. Nair back to some conscious discipline. So I think we would look at it, like I said, we'd look at it at the end of the year again and evaluate it. And you got, the board asked last month to put together a plan, and I outlined that a little bit. As again, with any plan, sometimes it always doesn't come to fruition, so that's why we evaluate every year and see if this is the route we still have to take. If it's not, then we reset and rearrange. But currently, right now, these are the needs that we feel we need, and this also allowed her to push a little bit into 6th grade as well. So really, it's the .4 FTE for the E&L teacher. And I think we have a pretty good situation for the next couple of years that we might be able to be lucky to have, especially in this position because they're hard to find. So.
I don't think I asked for a motion and a second on that before the discussion began, did I? Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Okay, now any discussion or questions?
You can roll it back 3 minutes and I got this, so we're good.
Anything else? Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So we'll post and then we'll appoint. And then again, like every position, you guys all know, every year you evaluate it. And we'll look to evaluate at the end of the year how things are working. So.
Okay, then I would ask for a motion on the long-term substitute.
Give you a quick explanation on this
Wait,
one?
first we have to have a motion
Oh,
and a
sorry,
second.
sorry.
Try to do my thing right here.
My fault.
Slow down, slow down.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, now go ahead.
Sorry. As you know, we ran into a very difficult situation last year when we shared with Marie. She is approaching the $30,000 mark for her retirement, and we have to put a waiver in. Everything's fine with the waiver. The problem is we never approved her appointment in the first place. So we have to approve her appointment. Does that make make sense?
Yes.
And I could see how it kind of got lost a little bit, because I think it was more of a temporary thing last year, and people were still wondering where it was going. And obviously this year, you know, it was a 3-week fill for us, and it worked out perfect, and so we were able to figure out what the plan was full time. The 3-week this year is gonna tip it over to the $30,000 mark, and it's amazing what they do in the state when you hit that $30,000 mark. They stop everything, your payment, your pension, the whole 9 yards. So this is just setting it straight so I can send this out to the waiver that we did approve for a plan, which we pretty much indirectly did last year. So she's done, it's a foregone conclusion. It's just what we paid her.
Okay, any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I just can't believe what the state does when they hit their, I thought they would kind of dock some of your pay, but they shut down your retirement check.
Oh, nice, nice.
But the waiver will prevent that.
Correct. I can't see them turning down this one. If they do, we pass. Yeah.
Okay, and then before I ask for a motion for adjournment, I would like to invite everyone to stay and have a piece of pie, which we were very grateful for.
And I would just like to say, this is Mrs. Ward's last meeting. And thank you very much. It's a short time for me.
That's right.
But you're an outstanding administrator, and it's a very big loss for us. And I wish you the best of luck, obviously, and we're gonna celebrate her tomorrow night.
Okay, so, I would have a motion for adjournment. Okay, we're out of here, but apple pie comes first, or whatever.
No.
Pie.